I'm stuck in plat this season. Any tips? My number one tip for ladder climbing is as soon as you queue into a matchup, just make sure you pull up the stats on the side and find the deck your opponent's likely to be playing, and then just think about their cards and make sure you're playing around things. I think this will take anyone really, really, really far. Like, it makes such a big deal, it's hard to explain. So it's like, you know, we're against Diana Nocturne, so we're going to very quickly just go ahead and pull this up. Go to metastats, and I've talked about this before, I've shown this before, but we hit up Diana Nocturne, we go to, like, you know, target on this, and we see, like, okay, this Diana Nocturne is the most popular, you know, all ranks. Usually it's going to be, like, one of the more popular versions, but worst case scenario, you're off by 1 or 2 cards, and you're just like, okay, these are the cards my opponent's going to be having, these are the cards I'm going to have to, like, be thinking about playing around the entire game. It's a game where, like, you really have to be thinking about what your opponent's doing. It's not very, like, solitary as a game. I think I kick Fizz here. That was a bad example because, like, I mean, it's kind of easy to remember exactly what Nocturne Diana is going to be running, but if you just do that every game, it'll take you quite far.
Only a fool would enter battle with a
Sure.
We will resist.
I don't know. Do we not have an attack there? It feels like a fine attack to me, but maybe I'm trolling. What punishes that attack?
Invisible to
Okay. Yeah, I feel fine.
Who goes there?
Alrighty. So we can go ahead and take a little damage here. This deck does feel really good in the meta. I'm very happy with just, like, working on this. I mean, open attacking gives us the ability for tricks. So we have to think, like, okay, what could he play to punish us, right? It's turn 3. Let's go ahead. I mean, we've got his deck list pulled up here, right? It's turn 3. Well, he's a Nightfall deck, so it's kind of hard to, like, dead drop stuff like Doom Beast. He doesn't really have a lot of defensive stuff, so he's not really playing too much to punish us. Uh-oh, Solari Soldier is a 3-3, but, you know, we still have a decent attack into it. But what if, like, the problem with Solari Soldier is it threatens, like, Pale Cascade and Unspeakable Horror, which could potentially threaten the Starlit Seer, so maybe we don't want to give that value. I think I do want to get, like, the developments out of his hand. Let's go ahead and actually play the Narwhal here. I think that's perfectly fine. Let me switch back. So the reason we're thinking about playing the Narwhal here is because Nightfall is a deck that often loses resources. Sometimes they run out of Nightfall triggers, and even a lot of hands that have Solari wouldn't really get much value out of playing it here, which is really nice. So we feel like, you know, because we understand how his deck works, and because we looked at what cards he could play to punish us, we're thinking, okay, yeah, this is pretty safe. It's worth risking a little bit of damage, you know, to get more max value. Because, like, if he even has the one card that makes that attack arguably slightly weaker, because, like, my 3-3 still goes into my 3-4 still goes into his 3-3, but if we play the Narwhal, then we only have mana for Elixir. And then if he, like, counters Elixir with Pale, it's like, you know, his unit's not dying and my unit is at 1 health, and that's, like, something that could be pretty bad. But if he does all that, he's, like, he could be pretty low on Nightfall triggers. So this is a super great scenario for me. Absolutely wonderful. I'm just going to kind of click this button. And we've got every answer we could possibly need here. Okay, so what are we doing here? You know, we've got stuff like Make It Rain that we're looking to get value out of. We've got stuff like Troll Chant. Or we could just go for the Fury of the North and see what happens, right? So we got to think, okay, what does his deck have, right? Well, they run 3 Pale Cascades. I'm still pulling it up on some, looking on the side. 3 Pale Cascades. Well, that's actually pretty likely to be in his hand right now. It's also kind of a bonkers card, and you're pulling around it in every deck because it's fucking Pale Cascade. So now we have to think, like, okay, if I Fury of the North instead of my other option, so we're threatening, you know, 5 to his 3, and we've Furied, so or we're successfully at 7. He pales into us. He's still dead to the, you know, he's still dead to it. And we can re-Elixir of Iron, which actually feels really amazing. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Let's Fury this. This is if he Pale Cascades, we've forced it out, and we have the recounter with Elixir of Iron. But if he doesn't, then he kind of feels even worse, right? Because, like, Pale Cascade is a card that sort of needs to be used very aggressively. It needs to not just, like, sit in your hand like that.
An auspicious season.
So we just make sure we have answers to things. We're just playing quite passively. He's the aggressor in this matchup, so he's the one that needs to come to us, so to speak. We drew a big fucking zap, so I'm going to play my big fucking zap. Again, we're thinking, like, can he really punish our development? Honestly, our attack here isn't even really good enough. I'd rather develop my 5/5 elusive before my attack. That one's a no-brainer. Okay, he took us Stalking Shadows. So now we're going to watch the 2 cards on the left side of his hand. Usually they play the non-ephemeral one first, so we're going to see which one he has an ephemeral copy of if we're watching the left side of his hand. Doom Beast is a pretty good card for him to have here. We still have basically our full attack for value though, because Doom Beast has no good blockers into this board state. And he can block Narwhal to Shade Stalker, but he's tapped out of the re-response, which means we're going to be perfectly fine if he does that.
Fear not death.
So the question is, you know, we're thinking about this hand, we're thinking about ways to maximize this. So what are we doing here? Well, we've got Make It Rain. You know, we can use it on the Shade Stalker. You know, we've got Make It Rain and Parlay, and these are kind of bricked in this matchup, right? They're not necessarily that great because, you know, there's no 1 health units he's playing. So Make It Rain, I could use on the Shade Stalker, and that sets up my Parlay for next turn. It's nice. I like using spells aggressively like that. That's pretty sweet. But you know what? Let's go ahead and, you know, think what his deck could have. Let's pull up the list again. So he's already used 1 Pale Cascade, so he has a problem protecting his 1 health units. And look at this. He's got 3 Stygian Onlookers that, you know, he hasn't played yet, and they're pretty scary. Let's play around the Onlookers, and let's actually just keep our hand nice and reactive. Let's do the Troll Chant now instead. You know, we're gonna take the Troll Chant here. And now his unit's at 1 health, so we could Make It Rain it. We can still do the Make It Rain Parlay later. But more importantly, we're playing around a card that he has in his deck. Now, the Punish to Onlooker, you know, if we save Make It Rain for Onlooker, Pale Cascade can be a little scary, but again, he's used 1 already. He hasn't played Onlooker yet. Let's play around his deck, right? So this is the #1 tip. You'll go, it's because you'll not only win more games, but you're gonna learn the game better by doing this. Just think about their deck, think about their cards, and plan ahead. I refuse to give you guys a tip that won't also teach you the learning process, right? Tips shouldn't be superficial, right? I don't want to like, I don't want to teach a man, I don't want to give a man a fish. What's that? What's the phrase? You know the one I mean. But that's a tip that'll immediately increase your win rate while also making you a better player long term.